What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Logic Bomb Podcast, episode 51. And we're recording this live. Actually, Veronica and I are both streaming right now. We're going to be talking about current Siege topics. We're also going to be taking some input from the chat as we go here. Probably answer some chat questions towards the end of the podcast. And we decided we wanted to try to record this live. Veronica and I both have stream a good bit, so it just kind of makes sense to incorporate this into our streams to try to get a little bit more exposure and try to fit our schedules a little bit more. I think is the big thing. It doesn't mean that every episode is going to be live. If we have situations where we have guests that would prefer to do it offline, then we'll probably go that route like we have been. We wanted to give this a try. So any feedback you guys have as far as how this turns out, whether you're watching it live on either mine or Zeronic stream or on YouTube, is greatly appreciated. And with that said, I guess let's get into it here. Zeronic, how you doing, man?
I'm terrified of doing this live because now we've done it for so long without really having to edit anything out.
Yeah.
But and we're doing it right after having access to the test.
Yeah.
So I'm like mentally preparing to not break an NDA by mistake.
I guess
we'll see.
All right, so here's the deal. Zeronic and I have both played the new season. At this point, there's been a few teasers released, and we've also had the full operator trailer released. So we can talk about what's live. We can talk about what's been revealed so far. We can talk about the fact that the new operator coming with high caliber is Thorn. She has a new gun and a new gadget, and that's cool. I'm really excited about a new gun. The gadget looks to be some type of a trap gadget. I think that's fair to say. That's about, that's all the information we can say. I think we can give our opinion on what's public as far as, how do you feel about a trap? How do you feel about a trap operator coming to the game? If Thorn is in fact a trap operator, how does that sit with you?
Well, I'm not necessarily against a trap, but I think we're getting to a point where it's so difficult making a trap that's new. Like that really does something special. And you see in the video, she froze it, I think it's blue, and then they walk into line of sight of it and it becomes red. So if it's a proximity thing like Ella or something like that, I think it's power creeping a little bit. And I think that's one of the first times where I would say that Siege is power creeping, where something just makes more sense. Now, I don't know, maybe she doesn't have as many, but if she was to have the same amount as Ella and they then do damage instead of just concussion, I think she'd just be better. Of course, depending on secondary weapon, secondary gadgets, we don't know if the new gun is good, right? Like maybe it's super difficult to use, maybe it's super easy to use.
Yeah.
But I'm a little afraid of it being power creep.
Yeah, at this point, we don't know the damage model of the gun, the recoil, stuff like that. So there's a new gun, and that's awesome. As far as the trap operator thing with me, like, when's the last time we had a trap operator? Because I mentioned this in a video, and a lot of people were saying, dude, a Rooney, Malusi, I don't consider those trap operators. I consider that more like crowd control type. I don't consider that like a trap operator like Capkin or Ella or Legion.
I would say like a Rooney you can see, like you know that you're gonna face that, right?
Yeah.
Sure, it's a trap, but I would put Rooney much closer to Castle than
right.
I would put it to Capkin.
What about Malusi? Would you consider that a trap?
I think now, yes, because now you have to place them where they're not visible. Because by the time people actually walk into proximity of them, they can just be shot, right?
Yeah.
I think the proximity mines is probably the latest trap edition, right?
Well, yeah, that's true. That's true. The secondary gadget. What about? Goyo. I wouldn't consider Goyo a trap operator either. That's like area denial / utility soak. So yeah, I'm okay with them. There was a time, if you remember back to year 2, when we got there were those 2 seasons in a row where we got 3 operators, and of those 3 operators, you had Legion and Ella coming into the game, and I think before that we only had Frost and Capkin, And then just like in the blink of an eye, our trap operators doubled. And not only that, both of them had really high pick rates. And I remember
Yeah.
at that time being kind of like, yeah, trap operators, I can do without any more of those, but I'm okay with this one in the sense that I don't feel like we're overrun with trap operators right now.
No, and the ones that we have now have all seen quite a lot of change, right? I think Frost is the only one that hasn't really changed that much. They
Right.
changed her Super 90. Capkin doesn't insta kill anymore. He's been through, I mean, 2 reworks, right? The laser got removed, the spike got removed, the damage got changed. Now you can place as many as you want on a door. And I almost think that in most situations that's kind of enough because your stuff isn't spread out as. I mean, you can choose to do it, right? But when people stack their Capkin traps, if you actually find them, you instantly eliminate 2 or 3.
Right.
That takes off a lot of pressure. And Ella's seen change. There's no sensitivity fuckery anymore. And she doesn't have the OP Scorpion she once had. And Leisha doesn't have the icon, which
Right.
was pretty big. Or the
Initial
initial damage.
initial damage was a big factor there as well. Yeah, I think we can also say based off of the trailer and how, what you see there from how that gadget, it looks like it works, that it's very, very possible that the Capcom buff of being able to place more than one on a door was them preparing for this operator maybe. Because, it just, yeah. And I think that happens more than we realize in Siege. Like, because I remember saying, like, the Capcom buff in this midseason, I was like, why? You know what I mean? Like, Capcom is like one of the last operators that I would think about buffing personally. So the whole thing just seemed like out of nowhere for me. But now, looking at how this operator might function, it's starting to make a little bit more sense, I think.
Also, I think from a casual perspective, it might not be the most fun having to worry about something being around every corner, around every door. But I mean, it could be a player as well, right? Just tucked in a corner. So I think it's okay to have to look for that. And the more auto gadgets you place around like traps and self-activating stuff, the less you're gonna have to deny the wall from getting opened. If your Maestro is gonna be on cam somewhere, or your Echo or whatever it might be, you just start losing a lot of actual control by having all those things. They're just giving you a bit of intel. If you're not playing around the area, it's not really gonna matter. But I don't know. My biggest fear is that she power creeps and makes another operator not ever worth picking over them. Because I think that would be a big mistake, and it seems like it would be hard to fix if it is a power creep, because you can of course take a certain amount of the gadget away, but if the gadget is still better, then it just becomes unfun if you don't have enough of them.
I think based upon the feedback that I have, there's more excitement over a new gun coming this Siege than a new operator or a new gadget.
Yeah, probably.
Which is interesting to think about. But I get it. I honestly do. The last new weapon that we had in Siege was the Gon 6. The last one before that would have been Cali's Sniper or the S or Zero. Which one came first? I think Cali came before Zero.
Yeah, I think so as well. I can't remember.
So it would have been Zero's SC3000K or whatever that's called. Which, by the way,
Cali or Gon 6 counts, right, as a new weapon. It's like
right. Remind me, I want to talk about Zero in this podcast. Like, Zero is like nuts right now. Like,
yeah,
like absolutely nuts. But yeah, what do you think about them making fictitious weapons instead of I guess you could say getting the license to real world weapons or whatever? Like the SC3000K, that's not a real weapon. Cali Sniper, that's not a real weapon. The
SC3000 is based on a real weapon.
Is that a real weapon?
Remodded the FN2000.
Okay, so I mean,
well, frankly, I don't care if like
you don't care. Okay,
no, because if they. So I know they have the license for some of the guns that they use in what's it called? Ghost Recon, right?
Yeah.
Because basically, if the gun has the real name, I'm almost certain they need the license for it.
Sure.
The same with some camouflages. All the Navy SEAL ones are using multicam. I am convinced that you're not allowed to use that unless you have the license. And
Gotcha.
it's probably why in Ghost Recon they had ATAC camo, multicam, stuff like that. We've seen Under Armour on Frost and Buck,
Yeah, what is
right? So
that all about?
they have probably a license, right, for maybe Ghost Recon, or maybe it was for Siege, and then you might as well use it.
I guess.
Um, the same like Valkyrie's like plate carrier is a Cry JPC, and her pants are Cry G2 pants as well. They probably have license for that as well. But some things are just notoriously difficult to get a license for, like Glock. Glock pistols are just difficult to get a license for. So people just call their pistols in game a G17, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't care. They can make them so they resemble quite a lot. And we can see that it's probably this gun or this gun. But whether I'm using a made up gun in the game or a gun that exists in real life, yeah, as long as it looks good in game and feels beefy, right? Like I want that when I shoot the gun, it has to feel like there's some weight to it.
Right.
Then I'm honestly happy with it.
Season's gonna be on Monday. I guess that they're doing it like they did with the Mexico major, in the sense that it'll be revealed on the first day of the major rather than the last. Any thoughts on that? Do you like it better that way, or?
I don't really mind, but I'm in a bad position for that because by the time it comes out, we know, right? I think if I was just watching, I wouldn't mind. It would probably be easier for me if it was around the finals, if I was busy and had to work and do stuff, because I'm more likely to take time off to watch the finals if time is very if your schedule is very tight. It'd be easier to watch a reveal and the finals on the same day than to have to spread it out over more days. But on the other hand, it takes some of the pressure off. People are not going to sit there going reveal, reveal, reveal while the matches are going on. Yeah, I'm 50-50 on that one.
Yeah, me too. I do, if I remember correctly from the Mexico major, though, it did seem like peak viewership was for the reveal, and then it slowly went downhill for the rest of the major, which is a bit odd. But it is what it is. It's probably, I'm sure there's pros and cons to whichever way you decide to do it. Zero. Yeah, let's talk about Zero right now.
Double hard breach charges made it busted.
Double hard breach change is one of the most significant changes that have been made to this game in like the last year or 2 years, and like nobody is talking about this. Like, you don't need to bring hard breach on many sites now, like many sites,
or at least you only have to bring one.
Right.
On some of the sites where you sometimes brought 3.
Right.
Like there were times where we saw 3 hot breaches in Clubhouse.
Yep.
You don't need that anymore.
Right.
There's just no need for it. And if you look at Zero, Finka, and Yana combined now,
you
have 4 nades, 2 gun 6s, 2 good guns, 3 gun 6s, sorry, because Zero can have one as well.
Yeah.
You got his sap things, you got heartbreak charges. Like, bruh.
Yeah, it's a lot.
We need to get to a place where they really heavily limit ammunition now. So you can't do too much with your main weapon if you choose to have the gun 6, I think.
So you're saying that if you have the gun 6, then you should have lower ammo count in your primary weapon?
No, I think you should have lower ammo count, like no matter what. So it makes sense to have the pistol.
Oh, I gotcha. So you think that it's a no-brainer? Really, you think it's a no-brainer right now to bring the gun 6?
It's very hard for me to justify not doing it on the operators that have it. Because if I play in a stack or together with people and we have some sort of communication, I should be able to choose when I reload. And if I can do that, I would always rather be able to instantly remove a bulletproof, a shield, whatever it might be. Um, Even just slam a barricade open instantly. That does almost no damage to my team, so like, you can rush in. I think it's so strong.
Yeah.
And I'm also slightly biased because I really like the idea of that gun.
Yeah, I hear you there. Yeah, I don't know, man. I've been playing a little bit of Zero, and it feels like it almost feels like Ace used to feel, in the sense that, like, whenever I remember playing Ace at one time and being like, okay, I've got the best gun in the game. I've got I've got
Broken.
breaching charges to play vertical with, from at least top down. And then I've got hard breach as well. And I can also, like, use the hard breach as kind of creative, just like go underneath and try to shoot stuff off the wall and stuff like that. Like it felt like Ace could do everything. And now I really feel like Zero is that guy. Like, the SC3000K might be the best gun in the game now on attack, I would say after maybe the G8, but I think it's better than the AK-12, since the AK-12 got the recoil nerf. The damage model is pretty much the same as the AK-12, if I'm remembering correctly, but I think it
Yeah, I
had a
think so,
smaller
yeah.
mag. I want to say it was a 25 round mag compared to a 30 round mag.
Yeah, 25 plus one in the chamber. I don't know, because I got so surprised when we talked to Matt in the podcast where we talked gun balance. Like I was so surprised that the FMG was that high on like performance, right?
Yeah.
And it's like statistically one weapon is the best. Where like with the AK-12, for example, it made sense. That gun actually slammed both on paper and in game. But then you had like the FMG, which doesn't seem that good on paper, but apparently did insanely well in game, right?
Well, I think that's so. For anybody who's not familiar, what Zeronic's referring to there is, when we last time we had Matt on, he handles the gun balance, I guess you could say, of Siege, and he gave us the top 5 best performing weapons on attack and defense. And one of the top 5, I think it was 5th on attack, was the FMG9. And the stats he was going by was kills per round and kill death ratio, I believe. I think those were the two
Yeah,
stats that he was.
something like that. Yeah.
It's tough though, because how much of that do you attribute to the fact that Nook's only job is to get kills?
Exactly. But then you had all the fraggers that weren't up there, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the weird thing. I think I remember Sophia not being there at all.
Right.
But
Right.
then maybe it's because with Sophia you'll pull out your gadget and die every now and then,
Right.
right? Because you have something to do and then you get shot, and that attributes negatively to the stat of the gun, even though it had nothing to do with the weapon because the weapon wasn't out.
Right.
So it's so hard to look at Sophia LMG, man. Like the AR got nerfed, and I'm more terrified of Sophia players now than I've ever been, man. Because when they start shooting, they'll keep doing it for the next 30 seconds while just pushing you, right?
Yeah.
I'm glad that I didn't have to face that until now.
Yeah. Yeah, that one's a bit weird. I don't know. The Sophia thing's kind of a mess right now. Like, there's a lot of people who aren't happy about that. But I made a video not too long ago talking about, is it possible that the defenders in any given round actually have better guns than attackers? And the fact that the FMG9 rates so highly on attack could play into that. Because would you say that the FMG9 is the best gun on defense?
No.
I wouldn't say that either. I would say it's top tier. It's a good gun on defense. It's up there. But I think the Alda's better. I think that I think the T5 is probably better.
I think most shotguns are better, just in general.
Okay. So that really does make you think, if that gun has the potential of performing so well even on attack, is it possible that, in any given round, that defenders have better guns than what attackers do?
I think it's way too difficult to compare that because it's asymmetrical, right? Like the attackers have, without a doubt, better guns until they get to the building.
Yep.
While outside the building holding anything in, which on, I'd say a good probably 60, 70% of the maps, you can get your first 2 kills without entering the building if you work together. The attackers without a doubt have better guns. On long angles, they always have better guns. When we get close and we talk about moving, like going from ADS to non-ADS, SMGs are king, right? Because if we both sprint in a hallway and see each other at the same time, I will almost always, with a defender gun, be able to ADS and hit you before you can ADS and hit me. Especially if you're choosing to use any kind of magnified scope. And then again, a lot of the attacker guns have a little bit more recoil, so if you run angled grip on them, it might be a bit harder. to control the recoil. I think defenders have good guns for room to room fighting, whereas attackers have good guns to get from spawn to site.
I agree with that. I think that it's possible that the original design of the game maybe overestimated the importance of damage per bullet and underestimated the importance of fire rate. Maybe because we saw a while ago that the average gunfight distance in Siege is somewhere around like 9 meters, 10 meters, something like that.
Yeah, but that one's dangerous as well, because think about it, like all retakes force that, right? Every time a plank goes down, it forces a gunfight in rather close range, so it'll automatically scale some of the fights down quite a lot. But I think damage per bullet is pretty important, because there's a reason that we saw that massive nerf to the TSG. That thing like two-shotted you across the map, right? And if we were to swap the guns, let's say all defender guns were now attacker guns and the other way around, I think a defense would be impossible to beat. Imagine DMR sitting holding pixel angles to sight and being able to two-shot you.
Yeah,
Body shot.
I don't disagree. I do think that the argument that I would make though is that the advantage that attackers have in a round, in an actual round, is not enough to overcome the other advantages that defenders have. Because you can say the G8 is the best gun in the game. I would probably say that the G8 is the best gun in the game. I would say that Amaru's G8, because I think she still has angle grip, she still has ACOG, she's got great. Amaru's G8 is probably the best gun in the game. If Amaru's pick rate though is 5% or lower, does that really matter? You know what I mean? So if in a given round the attackers are bringing thermite, sledge, and these guns that aren't considered the best guns on attack, then that's.
Yeah, but how often? So if you think about when you play, how often do you feel like the gun had anything to do with if you came out on top of that gunfight?
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, sometimes.
Yeah, sure, sometimes. But
yeah.
if you're a sledge or thermite, for example, like thermite's gun is not bad by any means, right? If you get the job done, you get the wall open, you hold maybe a flank or an angle or something, and you go for the plant. It like that gun slams at that job, right? It's really good at that. It's not good if you want to be the entry fragger. With sledge, well, you run around, hammer some stuff, and you can run ACOG on that gun, hold something, throw your nades. I just don't feel like I'm getting slapped because the defenders have a gun advantage. It's more about where did I decide to peek from? Did we waste all of our drones in prep phase? Like we normally do that. We just drive our drones in, they die, and then halfway through the game we're sitting there thinking, shit, man, we wish I could drone out this whole way. And then I get spooked by a guy flying around the corner with an SMG. But had I known he was there. Also, chip damage, I think we're forgetting that. How often do you take a little bit of damage and then go back? Right? And then the attacker, per shot damage really matters.
For sure. Yeah. I think one of the things though along this conversation that should be mentioned too is I feel like attackers have maybe and this double breach charge, bringing it back to this, is could fix this, in all honesty. I feel like traditionally attackers have had like one flex pick per round, whereas defenders sometimes have like three. So like a defender, like when you start looking at flex picks, you can go a couple of different rounds with that, and everybody's different. But I feel like a lot of times as a defender, you're being like, okay, we've got a Cade. All right, okay, we've got a mute. All right, so now I can bring Mozzie with the 1.5. I can bring Jaeger with the carbine. I can bring, Oryx with the T5 1.5. You know what I mean? Like, and then on attack, it's like I need to bring Heart Breach. I need to bring vertical destruction. I need to bring nades. I need to bring, you know what I mean? And then you're just left with, you're picking based off of utility that you need, and then you deal with the weapon that you have to bring.
But I think on defense, your flex picks matter a little less because they they all kind of do the same and all kind of get countered the same. So all your wall denial are pretty much dealt with the same way from the attacking point of view, right? Like sure, maybe the Kaid Claw has to be removed from some other place, but you always, unless Kaid is banned, you assume that it's going to be the Kaid Claw because it's the hardest to remove. And then you like go down the line, then it becomes your bandits and then your mute jammer. So whether you pick one or the other of those, your plan for how to deal with the wall is almost always the same from the get-go. If you're a stack, right? Like if you're working together. I think the only thing that is terrifying from like a flex pick and a public play standpoint on defense is if there's a frost, if there's a capcan, if there's a cav, things that can like within 10 seconds mess the entire round up for you. Because Timmy had the diffuser and went in by himself in the opposite end of the map. Because that can straight up lose a round within 10 seconds, right?
Yeah.
It jumps in, gets interrogated, jumps in with the case, gets frost trapped or capcanned or whatever, and now you don't have your heart breacher, and everyone else sitting outside thinking, "Oh shit." It's hard to have the same thing on attack because we used to just think if Thermite died, we were screwed. But we have so many heart breachers now. That was really the only thing. Like I don't know how many of from chat played back then, but we played for a long time without having anything but Thermite.
Yeah.
That was your one way of opening the wall.
Yep.
And you had to have someone play Thermite.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Then Ibana came out and everyone thought Thermite was going to be useless.
Yep.
But I don't know, from a comp point of view, most sites have pretty strict requirements to most of the default strats, right? Of what operators you probably need to bring. Some spots are only ever going to be played if you have a Wamai or a Jaeger. Otherwise, you're just not going to play in that spot. And then you can kind of predict that as an attacker. Well, then we don't need to deal with it and we don't have to waste our utility on it. So I think it evens out. Like, all right. I think attackers are slowly getting stronger. But I think if attack gets as strong as defense, it's not going to feel fun to play.
I don't disagree.
Because
yeah.
When you lose as defense, it feels like you're getting choked, right?
For sure.
Whereas when you lose as attack, I feel like it's always being chipped away slowly. At decisive losses, defense is hard because you're just all getting cramped and can move and.
A strong attacking meta feels oppressive. And now granted, our example that we have in Siege of a strong attacking meta, I believe the only time attackers have had a higher win percentage was back in year 3, season 1. That was the introduction of Lion. And we all know why.
And I don't even think that it wasn't positive, right? I don't think attackers had higher win percent. They didn't have higher win percent than defense, but they had the highest win percent that they've had.
Okay.
I believe. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, you might be right. And you know, let's now. Obviously, Line at that time was broken. What, you know, if they were able to get the attackers to that point again without it being because of a single overpowered operator, would it still feel that way? I don't know. But I can tell you straight up, I remember playing against Original Lion, Dokkaebi, Blackbeard, Blitz, and just feeling like I wanted to die. Like I just didn't.
A Jackal or a Glass.
Yeah, and then a Jackal. Yeah. Or a Ying even. Like it just felt like this is not fun, and it felt really, really oppressive.
The horrible thing about that is that we had operators like right around the corner to fix those things. That just didn't happen, right? Like, imagine if the Warden was out at that time.
Yes.
How weak would a lot of those attacks have been all of a sudden?
Right. And that's kind of,
mute change was in play at that time as well.
That's kind of the story of Rainbow Six Siege. You know, not to overstate it, but just sometimes it feels like Siege does the right things too late a lot.
Yeah.
And
I think some of them also, like you have to, the problem has to arise because it's probably not as easy to predict. I will say Lion, you could probably have predicted that one. But funnily enough, there's still games out there trying to put it in. Battlefield's trying to put Wallhack in, right?
I think they've already stepped back on that one a little bit. I think they nerfed it already.
They nerfed the radius.
Yeah. And that's in a respawn game mode. a freaking respawn game mode. Imagine in a non-respawn. Yeah, it was anyway. Yeah, that was dark days. You say that, but that's probably whenever I was playing the most.
Honestly, I think it was probably one of the times where I think ranked was the most enjoyable.
And
because the only thing that frustrated me was the choice of operators and how it that was it. It was the only thing I was ever worried about. Was it sucked to play against Ying, Lion, and all of that at the same time.
Yeah, and I think that's when the player count was the highest as well, which again, you can go a lot of different directions on why that is the way it is. Like it doesn't necessarily it's not as simple as saying, "Oh, because Lion existed, there were more people playing the game." No. That was just kind of like when Siege was really hitting its stride. Coming
You're
off
saying we need another Lion?
No. Somebody asked the other day along these lines though, what was peak Siege? And I responded that the 2018 Invitational was peak Siege, in my opinion. You agree with that?
100%.
And I don't even...
2018's Siege was the best ranked experience I've ever had.
So, like, after that, like, year 3 Siege, is that what you're saying? Or, like, before that? Because...
The entirety of 2018 to just around the start 2019, I'd say that's the most enjoyment I've had in Siege.
So we had what? Year 3, season 1 was Lion Finca. Then we had Parabellum, which was Maestro Alibi. And then I want to say Cade and Nomad was next. Which, keep in mind, so that would have been 2 new maps already that year, plus the clubhouse rework, plus 6 operators already. And then the final... I want to say maybe Grim Sky was next. Grim Sky was after that. That would have been Clash, Maverick. Maverick was groundbreaking. Maverick changed everything. That's probably one of the most influential operators in Siege's history.
But do you remember the panic of people going, there was no way to counter Maverick. It was impossible. Do you remember we had this exact talk when he came out where we were talking about you could actually throw C4 through the map holes? And there was some feedback from people going like, yeah, but that was unrealistic. You couldn't do that. Now we're seeing it all the time. People are impact slamming maps. They're shooting his feet, right? They're throwing C4s through it. He changed the game so much, but only in a positive way, in my opinion.
I think, one thing we have to keep in mind is that they did change the sound cues for it at one point. It was quieter in the beginning.
It was very quiet,
and that needed fixed. Another thing is that, at least for me, initially, I didn't look at him. I looked at him as a hard breacher, yes. But a lot of the things that I was doing with him initially was going up to reinforced walls, putting a hole in it, and then droning out and seeing if I can get a kill. You know what I mean? So that was different too. You don't really see Maverick used like that very much anymore at all. Because
then you get clapped.
Exactly. It's so loud. But the Maverick trick definitely changed Siege. That's one of the most influential things that came to Siege. And it's crazy because the amount of times I've seen somebody successfully Mav trick while solo queuing in gold, I could probably count on one hand. But even with that factored in, I would still say that's one of the most influential things that's ever come to Siege.
And he's been buffed in terms of having more in his canister now.
Yeah.
So even if people had an issue with map tricking, now they can at least make a couple of vaultable holes or crouchable holes, right?
Yeah.
You can make a vaultable hole with 1 canister, and I think you have 4. Is it 4+1 or is it 3+1?
I think it's 3.
4+1.
It might be. I'm not sure.
Shut up. Oh.
It's either 3 or 4.
Doesn't matter. You can do a lot, right? Like on Clubhouse, you can open up dirt and 2 hatches.
Yeah, that's nice. And the thing I love about Maverick too is that you're rewarded for you playing him more, learning exactly how to open things efficiently with him. It's a very skill-based operator. I think he's got a super underrated gun. Personally, I don't know why more people don't talk about his gun as being up there for defender or for attackers.
I think a lot of people die while having their torch out.
Yeah,
and that limits the feel of the gun, right? Because you fumble getting your weapon out, and then you might lose the gunfight there.
Yeah.
but yeah, that gun slams. I will say the like whole. I had a conversation with chat earlier today about like hidden mechanics or whatever you want to call it. You know, like the old Ella Sophia encounter, the lion or sorry, the Dokkaebi Echo encounter and stuff like that. Uh, Maving a hatch as a new player must be really confusing because there is no explanation of why or how that hatch breaks or when it breaks.
Right.
It just breaks eventually.
Yeah.
Now, you know, if you play a lot, that exactly getting like the L shape or the U shape around the hatch will break it. Do 2 lines down the middle and then 1 across will get it. Or if you're new and you have to figure this one out yourself,
Yeah.
yeah,
And,
that one's rough.
and at what point are you like, well, clearly this isn't going to open because I've done this a lot and it's not opening yet, so I'm just going to stop. And
Yeah,
if you would have gone a little bit more, it would have completely opened.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure
Or
that does happen a lot.
They'd sit on it, right? And map it open and wonder, okay, this is cool. I can just make a hole that I can maybe drop down. And then all of a sudden the entire hatch just breaks and you're in the middle of sight.
Yeah.
That has to have happened.
Actually, is that possible, by the way?
Nope.
It's not.
Nope.
It'll break completely before you can make a big enough hole to fall through.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I never thought about that before. I guess, you know, talking about Peak Siege, I guess the obvious question is how do we get back to that? But one of the things, there's a lot of people playing Siege right now that would say that this is Peak Siege. You know what I mean? Like, whenever I think like, okay, how do we get back to Peak Siege for me? Part of it is my mindset and the game was new or you know, and I was enjoying it more because I was still, I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know that that's a fair question to ask.
Yeah, I want the game we have now, but with the community we had then.
Okay. That's interesting.
And I know that's tough to say, but back then people wanted the rematch. People were playing on their mains. It was so fun.
Yeah.
There was always a plethora of people to play, right? Literally every person I see playing ranked right now is struggling to get their stack together every day.
Yeah.
So there isn't enough people to play with. We used to recognize people every single game, right?
Yeah.
You'd play the same team 3 or 4 times and be excited about it because you rematch on different maps. You'd actually kind of learn what they were doing. But I also don't know if I would have the same experience as I had back then if I didn't stream. Because maybe the games are like that when you look aside from the occasional spin butter and stuff like that. Maybe the games are like that. If you play it, like I used to play it till crazy times at night, right? And I'd play 12, 16 hours a day. I'm happy I don't do that anymore though.
Right.
But the game now, meta-wise, the options you have, I enjoy that way more.
Yeah.
Than I did then. I just think I had more fun with the people back then.
Well, yeah, I think that's definitely part of it. I think that the Siege community has evolved into a lot of things that I recognize from the COD community, and that if you listen to the COD community, for the most part, it sounds like they hate the game. It really does.
That's actually very true. Yeah. Yeah.
And it wasn't like that. There was, you can call it a honeymoon phase or whatever, but I mean, yeah, the COD community has been playing COD now for how many years now in a row? You know, I want to say that COD 4 came out in what, 2006, 2007, something like that.
I have no idea.
You know, so they've been playing the game for a long time, and you know, every year you saw I'm sure there was a honeymoon phase for them as well, and then eventually they got to the point where everybody kind of got bitter, you know. And I think that's where the Siege community is right now, and I'm not sure that there's a way out of that. But I'm not sure that that's a very accurate representation of the true Siege player. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I never thought about it this way, but like that's so true. When I played COD in COD 2 and COD 4, everyone was excited about it. Everyone was hyped. There was no complaining ever.
Yeah.
Started playing Modern Warfare. We all were sitting there going, shit game, but we still played it every day.
Yeah.
And we played it just as much as all the others, and we played the next one and the next one and the next one. But we kept complaining about the game.
Yeah.
All the time. And it wasn't that like balance-wise between COD 4 and Modern Warfare, I don't think one game did it much worse than the other.
Right.
They were just so similar that when we went to the other one, we were already like we were ready to complain then because it was very easy to see which guns we would have the same issues with that we had in the other game. If that makes any sense. Like we were kind of accustomed and adjusted to it. So when we started playing it, the games are too close to each other. We've played the same stuff for too long, and it's just very easy to find out that oh well, everyone's running akimbo, so that has to be the one issue, right? Then that gets changed. Well, then it's shotgun with extended barrel. Yeah, maybe we're just bitter assholes now.
Well, and then on this topic, here's what I'll say. A lot of talk about Siege player numbers and stuff like that, and we don't know what the Siege console players numbers are. I can tell you from all of my metrics that the Siege console numbers appear to me to be way, 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 way down. Like I would say that the Steam charts probably, I would say significantly more than the Steam charts. That would be my guess. But anyway, show me.
What else do they play?
Well, here, let me finish this thought. Show me a console game that has had as long of a lifespan as Siege. Because console players are used to switching to the new game every Christmas or every holiday season. It's the big AAA blockbuster releases, and they're going to go to the next game. And Call of Duty's done that. They've been annualized every year for who knows how long. Battlefield does it every 3 years. Maybe you can make an argument for Fortnite, but show me a competitive FPS on console that has survived for longer than 4 years. Show me a competitive FPS on console that has continued growing after 4 years. I don't think that there is one.
It survived the full gen.
Yeah. You can make a very strong argument that Siege was the best FPS of the previous gen of consoles. You can make a very strong argument for that. I would throw Black Ops 3 in there. What do you consider Battlefield 4? Well, that was technically previous gen. It released on both, right? Like it was technically PlayStation 3 was Battlefield 4. So I don't know if you consider Battlefield 4 what gen you consider that. But yeah, you can actually make an argument like that there's never been a competitive FPS on console.
Do I still have audio?
Yeah, you do. Did the dog destroy something?
No, the dog will grab the cable to try and get my attention.
Okay.
On the headphones.
He knows what buttons to pull.
He like nipped the cable to try and get me to look. Hey, buddy.
We'll have to get him his own camera box and just include him in the show.
Yeah, he just has to sit on my lap and then be quiet. All right, buddy.
Well, that's what happens when it's live.
Yep.
Oh, good. Anyway, I was just saying, like, I'm not sure what the future looks like for Siege on console. I don't really know. I don't really know if it'll ever come back, to be completely honest with you.
Well, so do we need a second edition? Is that what people need, or because I'm not a fan of the idea of just making a new game for the sake of renewing things. Like CS 1.6 got Source, and Source was arguably not a good thing for CS compared to CSGO, right? And CSGO failed massively to start with and then turned around. Like now I'm happy CSGO exists. Well, we played CS 1.6 for so long and I was so happy with it. StarCraft 1, it took so many years for StarCraft 10 or StarCraft 2. Yeah. I think it was 10 years actually for the next StarCraft, right? And there was nothing really at that same level. I'm all for them maybe making a new version that like cool, but there has to be long enough development time that they can make something that is truly many times better.
Right.
We don't need a quick, like 2.0. Like we need a full perfect upgrade, like the 10-year gap that some other remakes have had, right?
Right.
Because otherwise we're just gonna have the same issues,
or maybe worse issues. You can make that argument.
Yeah.
the best thing I could say to try to reinvigorate the console player base would be go free to play, introduce a really good cross-play system and cross progression system, and maybe I don't know. I don't know what you do as far as the mouse and keyboard stuff. I don't know. But I mean, you gotta find like, I think that, so Splitgate is a curious case. Splitgate is a game that was in closed beta, or I guess it would be open beta for a long time, and then on PC only, and then released on console, and introduced crossplay between PC and console, and all of a sudden kind of blew up. Now those numbers have dwindled back down. Like, it's very, very low now on Steam charts as far as Splitgate. So a lot of that hype has already died. But I do think that there is some truth there to maybe, like, going free to play, introducing a good crossplay system could reinvigorate the player base. I've heard a lot of people say that when they put Siege on the Xbox Game Pass, that really made a lot of people start playing it on Xbox. That means that's not free to play, but it's close to free to play. So maybe that's something to it. I don't know.
What about Extraction when that comes out? Do you think there are going to be people that don't play Siege that are going to maybe buy Extraction and then think, oh, maybe I want to try this against people?
I don't
think
know.
There's any chance of that?
I don't know.
I know plenty of people that got into FPS games from playing Left 4 Dead, for example.
Yeah. Maybe. I mean,
or Payday, and they went into competitive shooters after that. Like co-op, non-competitive shooters. They'd start with that, and then they'd go back. At least it's a very easy jump, right? Like if you play Extraction, it's kind of the same operators. They probably do kind of the same stuff.
Yeah.
It's not that far if you wanted to try and play it against other people then.
Yeah. Yeah, it could. It depends.
Assuming it's a success.
Well, I think the fact that they're releasing, I don't know. I don't know about Extraction, man. They're releasing it in January. I think that's very telling into that to me means that they don't think that it can compete with the big holiday releases. Either that, or maybe maybe they're smart in saying, like, hey, we're gonna try to release it in a window that doesn't have much competition.
I would be surprised if they had the cojones to dump it during holiday season. There's no way, man.
Yeah,
like that is either the biggest games, like franchise games that drop there, or games that you forgot even existed.
One thing I've been thinking about a lot recently is, honestly, and I know this sounds crazy.
All my ears.
I know this sounds crazy, but Call of Duty Modern Warfare, the most recent one, the reboot, I really feel like that game hurt Siege more than anything else, especially on console. And follow me on this train of thought. So when Siege was really growing fast, you had Call of Duty was still doing jetpacks. They were doing space warfare with Infinite Warfare. Then they went to World War II. Then they went to Black Ops 4, which was future, and a lot of. So there was, like, in my opinion, the last good Call of Duty was Black Ops 3. And then all those Call of Duty players didn't really vibe with several Call of Duties in a row. And a lot of them wanted to play a modern day shooter. And really, Siege was the place to go to play a modern day shooter. Battlefield was in World War I and then World War II. So if you wanted to play a modern day shooter, you were going to Siege at that time. And not until Call of Duty Modern Warfare was there another modern day shooter that really competed with Siege on console. And in my opinion, that is really when we started seeing maybe the downward trajectory. And then it got even worse when Warzone was introduced. So you've had Siege players playing Siege for the last couple of years. A new Call of Duty comes out that's in modern day. They download Modern Warfare. They're enjoying it okay. And then Warzone comes out. And we all know how gigantic the file sizes were for Warzone, especially in the beginning. And in order to make space on their hard drives, they literally had to uninstall games in order to make space on their hard drive. And I honestly believe that Call of Duty Modern Warfare really hurt Siege from that perspective.
Yeah, no, I can believe that, especially on console. I think on PC, It's more that we have more options now. So the people
Yeah.
that, because some people started playing Siege because they wanted a realistic tactical shooter. And if you did that, you made a mistake from the get go because it was never supposed to. It never looked like it, right? Like, except for the E3 trailer,
Yeah.
there's been nothing in Siege that resembled like a mill sim.
Yeah.
Now we have Insurgency Sandstorm, we have Zero Hour, we have Escape from Tarkov. We have so many options for people that want that more milsim stuff. Arma 3 milsims are getting easier to get into. There's a few consecrators that make guides about that, and it's very easy to start with that now, right? We have Squad, so many cool projects of that nature, which spreads a lot of players. Because at least if I'm looking at the people from my community and what I think they are probably playing in between, it's games like that. Sure, there's some that jump to Call of Duty, but Call of Duty is a very, shoot game. And a lot of people that started playing Siege, at least probably in our age group, wanted something a little more methodical, which I still think Siege is super methodical if you decide to play it that way,
Yeah.
right? Like no one is saying you have to rush through the first barricade and be on site within 30 seconds. That's a choice. Um, Whereas Call of Duty, I haven't played the last couple. I played the single players every time they come out, and I love the single player. Like the new Modern Warfare single player was so good in my opinion. Then I played, multiplayer to level 40 or something. Got like one gun maxed out, and then was like, nah,
Yeah.
I'll try the next one and the next one.
That's what Call of Duty is so foolish in not launching their games with a ranked mode. That I
Yeah.
actually I cannot believe that they are still doing this. And
Yeah.
I might make a video down the road about how annualization is killing Call of Duty multiplayer, but you can make the argument that Call of Duty titles are in their best state when the fewest people are playing them, because the game launches and then gets better over time, and then but that's the player base goes down. It's such a broken system. I don't get it at all. Anyway, I would
I
say,
mean, as long as we're talking about stuff being franchised, we probably have to we have to be honest and say that the goal is probably not to have the best product at any time. It's to have the best product
sales.
until have the best sales until the next sale.
Yeah.
And sure, it's the same with anything else, but a game that has a plan of staying, like Siege having a plan of staying here for maybe the next 5 years, whatever, they have to accept that there's going to be times where the game is really down, and there's going to
Yeah.
be times where the game is going well. Whereas if you have a franchise game, you put out something, you get either a really good reception, and then you can basically just live off the slow decline of players until the next one is there,
Yeah.
right? Because they reset their player base every single time. Maybe not with Vanguard. Let's see.
Yeah, nobody's excited about Vanguard. I mean,
No.
it's really weird. This will be the first Call of Duty that I think I'm just not going to play. Period. I usually
Yeah,
I usually buy every single one and play it at least for a couple weeks or something like that, and then put it away. Like, I don't think I'm even going to touch Vanguard.
on the other hand, the new, like the Modern Warfare 2 stuff sounds interesting.
That's what I'm saying. Is like
Like,
that
ooh.
the modern warfare formula with the reboot and stuff. That was a really smart move on their part. It was
And really
really
good.
smart, and I'm sure they're gonna milk that until they can't anymore. And yeah, I think if you looked at the average person that was watching my videos, maybe let's say 2-3 years ago, and is no longer watching them, I think that those players are split between Warzone, the current Call of Duty, whatever, Cold War, whatever that is, Apex Legends. Maybe I see some comments about Insurgency Sandstorm, but I saw a video title the other day that said 0 Hour, what Rainbow Six Siege could have been. And it had a good bit of views. I think it was in the hundred thousands of views. And so I looked it up. I looked up 0 Hour on Steam, and I think there was like 1,000 concurrent players that time. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. 0
Yeah.
Hour is a free-to-play game, right?
No.
Or is it not? Okay, I thought it was free to
No,
play.
I think it might be. Either it's Ground Branch or 0 Hour. One of them is definitely not free to play.
Okay.
I have both, and I've played both.
Yeah.
And
So
0 Hour is cool. It's not
Yeah,
doing
I'm
well.
not putting 0 hour. I actually have a ton of respect for indie studios that make a very focused and hardcore experience, like Insurgency Sandstorm. I think it takes a lot of balls to say, hey, we are going to make a game. We know that this is not going to appeal to the vast majority of gamers. We want to make a very focused, very hardcore experience, and we're going to do it. I have a ton of respect for people who do that. But for the people out there who say that the reason that Siege isn't popular anymore is because it's not realistic or it's not tactical or whatever, I think you can look at 0 hour, and it's not apples to apples necessarily, but I don't think the average player wants that. They don't want a very tedious game. There are people who do, and I'm not putting them down. Like, there are people who are going to get a ton of enjoyment out of Arma and Squad, and I know you're one of those players for the most part, Zeronic. Like, you really enjoy games like that. But if you're talking about a game that's going to carry, 100,000 players on Steam,
Yeah, it's not going to be that game.
it's not going to be that game.
No.
And
Not,
so,
like,
Zero
Hour was missing a lot of stuff because have you played it?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so it's good. Like, it's fun, but it's very, very early. They look like they want to be Siege, but a bit more authentic. The gunplay is really cool. The weapon systems are really cool. But then they take a ton of things that just don't fit and add them in. They have like Capcan traps, right? They have Valkyrie cams. There's a repel system, and most of these things are just unnecessary copies from Siege for no reason, and it does not make the experience better. You have these tripwire mines you put down. You have C4 that you can throw. Like, if you're trying to be this authentic CQB game, no one's running around throwing sticks of C4 inside houses, my dude. Right?
Yeah.
Like, you die to overpressure. It's just not a thing. But they spend a ton of effort on the weapon systems, having IR lasers and toggle switches, and your night vision looks insanely good. I just think they should choose one or the other. The HUD, by the way, looks like Siege as well. When you see attacking team and defending team, it's the same type of colors. When you pick your spawn, it kind of looks the same. I don't know if they've updated any of that, or that was how it was. I think a month or two ago when I played it. So they're trying to be their own game, but yet copying all of the things that they shouldn't have if they want it to be different than Siege. I don't like that.
One of the things I'm really curious about is what exactly is Alexander Remy and Amazon Studios working on over there.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited to see that as well.
For anybody who's not familiar, you could say that Alexander Remy, Xavier Marquis are the godfathers of Siege. And they have moved to Amazon Studios and are working on a new project over there. A lot of people, I made a YouTube video covering that, and a lot of people were like, oh, they're making Siege 2. My thought at that time was that I feel like if you're a creative personality, which I consider both of them to be, that you probably wouldn't want to just make another Siege. You know what I mean? Like, and I just can't imagine Ubisoft letting them go if they were willing to make another Siege. You know what I mean?
Well, wait, I also don't think they'd be allowed to. Like, there's very often some sort of non-compete clause, right, where you can't go out and make the exact same product.
True.
Like, you can't go out and make a.
Well,
I don't know if there is.
There's usually expirations on those clauses too. Like, you can't do it for a certain amount of time.
Sure. But
how many years, would that last?
Well, they can't brand it Siege, right? Like,
no.
They can brand it as any other shooter, but I think if they start, doing wall destruction the same way, repels the same way, classes the same way, or gadgets the same, that'll be an issue, right?
I don't see them doing that. I just don't think that they would want to do that. I think that they already did that. Why would they just want to do it again? I think they're gonna want to make a different game.
Try a new formula. Yeah, hopefully.
They have said it's a shooter though. We do know that. Who knows what that'll look like? But I mean, it's well documented. When we had Leroy on, one of his things that he said was there's so much more competition in the FPS space right now, and we're not even talking about games that resemble Siege. The only thing they have in common is that they're FPSs.
Yeah, they all have guns.
So what happens if there is an FPS that comes in that's got ton of destruction, is a hero shooter with gadgets and stuff? It's not crazy to think about.
I will say if any company makes something like Siege that is better than Siege, then I think Siege is done. Like straight up, if someone makes a product that does the same, the problem is that it took a very long time to get here. And there's a reason that for the entirety of the time that Siege has been out, no one's come close to making something like it.
Right.
Even Zero Hour doesn't have destruction.
Really?
Yep.
Interesting. And Battlefield has destruction, but not Siege destruction.
Yeah, no.
Like cinematic destruction is what I call that.
It looks cool, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you could argue that Siege's destruction is insanely unrealistic.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right, like it has nothing to do with any kind of tactical stuff, but it's fun.
Yeah.
And it makes the maps more dynamic and more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I think a new shooter would probably be slightly better off if it was a bit more, I don't know, toned down the amount of destruction. Like you can destroy a lot in Siege. You can basically destroy half of the map before you're at the place you want to be at if you wanted to, right?
Right.
And that's what makes Siege good. But if you want to pull in all the people that wanted to play the old Rainbow games, like the guys who came from Raven Shield and Raven Spear, Rogue Spear, sorry, Raven Shield and Rogue Spear. The people that played those games would probably prefer a little bit more toned down destruction. But then again, they're all 30 plus now. So maybe that's not your target audience. I'm kind of afraid of the Amazon FPS game though, because I've been following a little bit what goes on with New World. I know it's not the same people doing both games,
right?
But there's some quality testing in New World that didn't get done.
For sure, but New World is an amazing game. New World, sure, New World is an amazing game, and it's gonna be fine.
Maybe all the wars are basically broken right now.
Yes, there's some major problems. Yes,
people could pause their game and not take damage, become invisible or invincible. If you moved your window around while like you press escape and move your window around, you couldn't take damage.
I didn't know that. Goodness
gracious. Impossible. The entire economy of the whole game was messed up.
Yeah.
I don't know if it still is.
Yep.
But like tier 2 items were cheaper than, or were more expensive than like the tier 4 items. Makes no sense, and it's really hard to adjust economy in games like that. When WoW had economy issues, it took a long time for them to get it fixed. It's very, very complicated. It was client authoritative. I don't know if it still is. That basically means that it will have bigger cheater problems than any other game you can imagine, right? Even bigger than Siege. Just you're not aimbotting in that game, and
no, right? it would be. People
are item duping and like botting is still is a thing, right?
For sure.
The problem is if that happens in an FPS game, you don't get the same chance. You don't get people sitting there going, but it's an amazing game.
Right.
Because if that happens in the start of an FPS game and everyone just gets spin botted, you're done. You don't get a second chance there.
Well, I mean, Siege was pretty bad up until Skull Rain, right?
But no. That's the thing. Like, cheating in Siege back then is not even as bad as it is now.
As far as popular, as common? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, like you'd meet like actual spin botters and people that were flying and stuff like that. But for the first fair amount of time in Siege, we didn't have any kind of at least known anti-cheat. I remember I saw someone get banned by Fairfight, maybe I don't know, half a year or a year into playing Siege, and I was so surprised.
Gotcha.
But I didn't start playing Siege and then just see people aimbotting and spinbotting everywhere. But it's different now because with COVID and all of that, there are more 0 days out than ever before. There is more interest in breaking stuff and making third-party tools for all this shit, right? So if they are to put out a game that would be an FPS game, maybe client authoritative, all of that stuff, I think that launch would be so rough especially when you have alternatives like Valorant that came out and had a pretty decent launch in terms of like there was very limited cheating in the start on Valorant, right?
For sure.
And they're still, without a doubt, the best in terms of dealing with it.
Yeah.
They still have the problem, and it's still a big problem, but they're doing better than anyone else.
Yep.
And that rep carries them so long or so far, because I know people that have never played Valorant that doesn't even watch Valorant, that is sitting defending saying Valorant has the best anti-cheat.
Right.
Like when you have people willing to say that has never touched the game.
Yeah, that's good.
Then that's pretty good PR.
That's what I was saying. Like I put out a tweet. This was probably, I don't know, I'm guessing like 4 or 5 months ago. I said, if you are a studio right now and you are developing a first-person shooter and you are not building it from the ground up with anti-cheat in mind, stop what you're doing and start over. Because that's just such a, I mean, you nailed it there perfectly. Even the PR aspect of it is worth it. To be able to say in the first breath, in the first announcement of your game as a competitive FPS, if you're not mentioning anti-cheat, I'm concerned. Like, you got to mention it. And I understand.
But it's also so abused. It's so abused, man. I remember seeing the Valorant, we're going to war against cheaters. We're adding the fog of war system. It's revolutionary. No one else has it. But everyone's sitting there thinking, you know what? CS has had this for like 5 years. The idea that your computer doesn't know where the player is until you're close enough that you need to see each other, right?
Gotcha.
Like, plenty of games have that. But they came out with this was going to be a revolutionary idea that they had this fog of war system. It's like, it just seems like a cheap blow. Now they delivered and they did come out with a better solution than anyone else has.
Right.
And a big advantage to that is probably that it's only for one game and it has massive backing and money, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can make something good. Whereas everyone buying solutions kind of rely on like everyone will get equally hurt if someone has incentive to cheat in Siege and BattleEye gets fucked over. Then people in Tarkov are gonna have a bad experience as well.
Right.
Because now there are ways around it. Whereas in Valorant, you have to target that alone.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know. Did you play X Defiant at all? That's the Ubisoft.
Nope.
Okay, I believe they're.
Easy
is it easy? No, I thought it was BattleEye. I thought it was BattleEye.
Oh, might be. Okay.
I want to say they're using BattleEye as well, which is just like, okay, you know, I mean,
it doesn't matter if it's easy and shooter BattleEye or which one it is, right? Like, if there is enough people playing it and it is something that is used in multiple games, it'll be broken, and we probably have to start getting into third-party matchmaking.
Yeah.
I think we need to get to a point where it is other companies that deal with the integrity of the competitions. We do it at the highest level of competition, right? It's the only thing you do in CS if you want to have any kind of decent experience. You don't play public matchmaking in CS, and that's just accepted, right?
Yeah.
There's plenty of people that do play public matchmaking,
right?
But if you're a good player and you want to get somewhere, you play ESEA or Face It, right?
There's lots of problems with that, though. I mean, from a pure competitive standpoint, I agree. That is probably where you're going to get the best experience. But you're not earning renown. If they ever at any point introduce any type of operator progression or mastery system in Siege, then you wouldn't be working towards that.
Sure, but you didn't in Call of Duty either. No one ever cared there.
Yeah.
If you played comp in Call of Duty, right?
Right.
You just kept grinding. Maybe you grind that stuff on the side anyway, and you wouldn't really care because the player pool was so big that you would play against tons of really good people, tons of really bad people, and then a few cheaters here and there. But Siege just only has those two settings, right? We don't have gun game in Siege or headquarters or what was the big one called? The war something.
I don't. Yeah.
The massive mode in Call of Duty where you had tons of people.
I'm not sure.
You had all of these options, right? And there was a ton of them where the queue times were going to be long as hell. If you wanted to play that, but the people that try to play COD just never cared about if they had their skins or any of that. There's two different
for sure
roads, right?
What if Siege went free to play, but you had to pay $30 a year to play ranked. But as part of that $30, you got the season pass, meaning you got the traditional season pass before the battle pass was out. How the operators will come with that and all that. What if that was the way Siege did it?
I'd be fine with that. I'm not like I'm all for a free to play platform. I think that is without a doubt the best thing they can do. But I don't know how to fix it. Like I think you should pay. And I think most people would be willing to invest a little bit in having some integrity and a clean experience.
Do you think that would help the cheater problem?
Yeah, without a doubt. I don't think $30 a year would do it.
I do. I mean, I think it would help some. I mean,
I don't think it's the money. I think it's it's what you would have to go through to do that. I don't think it's not the payment itself. It's that you have to go through creating a subscription, an account. It has to link to you.
Right.
You have to be an existing person. Once you get the penalty, that penalty is on you, not the account.
Right. And if you try to use that credit card again, maybe it won't work.
Yeah, your name won't work. Your credit card won't work if the things don't match. Your phone number,
the shipping address, you go.
Yeah,
something like that. So I really think there's some potential there because, again, we've talked about this the last few episodes. Where my mind's at right now is BattleEye is going to ban people. They're going to, on the free weekends, they buy another account when the game's on sale for $5. They probably buy 5 of them. I can tell you, everybody that I find cheating gets banned within a couple of days, and then they just hop onto another account. What if they had to pay $30? If they had to pay $30 every time in order to do that, how does that look?
You know how for you to get AdSense for Google, you have to do this whole formula where they'll end up saying that you receive a letter.
Yes.
And you have to use that code in that letter.
Yes.
That way of verifying is very, very hard to fake.
Yes.
And getting 2 AdSense accounts is very difficult unless you go in where one is as a business and one is as a person.
Right.
I don't think you can have 2 AdSense accounts in your name. I don't think that's possible.
Yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest with you. So the only thing I don't like with that is I want it to still be possible for a new player to impulsively buy the ranked and the season pass and all of that, instead of having to like cool down over 2 days or 3 days that it takes for a letter to get to their house. And then
what about giving you a certain amount of time where you can play the game in, but the ELO is in a bank? So I don't know if this would work.
Yeah, that's.
But imagine you could play ranked, but it doesn't actually settle for 24 hours for every time you play it. So if you do go in and rage cheat, it will be caught before it has an impact. Like, I mean, the whole thing is this problem with live seeing your ELO, because they could do all of this in the background if we couldn't actually see how many points we gotten, right? Like if I didn't know if I won 50 or lost 50 points, they could just do this in the background right now. They could withhold your ELO for 24 hours at any given point.
Yeah.
It would just mess you over the last day of the season. That's the only thing. But
one of the comments I got in chat is that somebody was saying that you already have to rebuy the game in order to play on another account anyway. But I mean, they're rebuying the game for like $8 when it's on sale, or maybe even cheaper.
Oh, no.
Maybe even cheaper. Right. They're buying it from the people who have hacked accounts and stuff like that for even cheaper than that. This would prevent all of those accounts from being able to do that. It would also help with the smurfing issue. How many of these ranked stars are going to be willing to pay $30 time and time again in order to play ranked on 4 or 5 different accounts? Are they going to dump $150? You think? I'm sure some would, but I
mean, we do it on skins, right? But I just think that it should be easy to start playing Siege, but it should be really hard to play Siege on a second account.
Agreed.
And the reason that us content creators like having a second account is because then we have an option to be anonymous when we're not streaming if we play.
Yep.
Or we have a way of being slightly anonymous if we do stream. Maybe a coming streamer mode could fucking help that, and we wouldn't have to have a ton of new accounts, right? Like I have 2. Actually, 3. I have a level 7 account as well for some invitational event we did. But
Hmm.
it, like, I don't want to have a second account.
Right.
But on the other hand, I need it because if we get DDoSed and kicked offline from a ranked game, I get a 1-hour ban sanction, and I have two options. Either I can do the painful thing and play a T-Hunt or a casual for an hour, or I can log a different account. But if I get the abandon sanction for getting kicked out of the game, and my 4 other teammates don't, they're not going to sit there and wait for me to play an hour of casual, right? Like, they want to play ranked. So then I need to have a second account, or I need to stop playing for the day.
Would you grandfather anybody? Let's say that with the $30 idea per year or whatever the number is. Would you grandfather current players into that?
No. No, I didn't see why.
I mean,
unless you have the battle pass, because then you've then have it for the duration of the battle pass, and then you need to resubscribe or something.
So
I mean, people are going to lose their mind, right? Because $30
Yes.
is an immense amount of money for some people.
That's why I'm saying, like, I think maybe for the first year, you say, if you have queued for a ranked match within the last year, you are grandfathered in. You will not have to pay the $30 in order to play ranked this year. You will next year. But you also aren't getting the operators and stuff. Like, you're still going to need to, if you want to buy the operators and stuff, you can still do the $30.
I'm just afraid we're going to see like 50,000 bot accounts log into ranked, and
well, I think you would have to say, like, yesterday. You know what I mean? Like, if you up until, like, when you announce, if I announced it today, then the deadline would be yesterday. You know what I mean? You wouldn't give cheaters an opportunity to log in with new accounts. I would say, maybe you come out and say, so we're starting a system. This is to help combat smurfing and cheating. And I mean, let's be honest here. We think the feedback we've received from the players has said they preferred a yearly season pass compared to the current battle pass system for getting operators. So with that in mind, we're introducing a season pass now. With that $30, you get the ability to play ranked as well as unlock all the new operators. If you have queued for a ranked match within the last year, you're grandfathered into the ranked part, but not the operators. But next year, you will have to pay $30 in order to play ranked. That would probably be off the top of my head the way that I would announce it.
Yeah, I mean, $30 a year is nothing. If you spread it out over, like, it just isn't, because the same people that are complaining about that have an iPhone. I'm fine with that amount of money. And if you think about it, like, on what do you get per hour, right? Like, what's the price per hour for you to have fun, and what are you willing to pay? It's the same when you compare it to, like, going to the movies.
Yeah.
People can justify going to the movies, right? It doesn't mean that every game should cost a ton, but arguably things were a bit better when you had to go out and buy an actual disc to play the game, and your account was linked to the game, not the client. Like, in Siege, you just log into another Uplay, right? You don't have a different Uplay installation for every.
Right.
You just log in with a different one.
Yep.
So I can change accounts as many times as I want on my PC, and it'll never have an effect. And I would basically have an infinite amount of access to accounts if I just decide to have $100 on account. I could just have. I could always have a new account, no matter how many times I got banned. Right? I just don't like that it's that easy. We were talking about it in the chat yesterday, how I thought it could be fun to, how some games have these, like, cheater queues, right? Like, they shadow ban cheaters, and they put cheaters against cheaters. What if they did that with boosted players and Smurfs? What if the guy who is paying to get boosted is the one who gets put in that queue over the cheaters? Because the next people that will queue with him to boost him, and the next people that will queue with him to boost him, are not going to be able to provide the service anymore, because they will also be facing other people of the same nature. Instead of the cheaters just being kicked in that shadow queue, and then, they just lock on another account and boost the same person, because, like, we know that there are people that season after season after season play with cheaters. There are a couple people in the EU scene, for example, that have, I think, the past 3 seasons they're queued with have looked like Christmas trees. Right? It's basically like red, black, red, black, like all over their queue list.
Yeah.
Which is cheaters. If they got put into that queue, it didn't matter how many people were trying to boost them, because they'd be in limbo just playing against other non-fun people.
I think the games that I'm familiar with that do a low priority queue have huge player bases. So that would be my first concern. Do we have the player base to support it?
But wait, is it an issue that he sits in queue for an hour?
If you're not getting false positives, then no.
I mean, if you are getting false positives, I still think it's a big issue. Being in, like, you should not throw anyone in there without being very, very, very certain, because there is a legit chance that you make people want to quit, which is the whole game, goal of it, right? You
Right.
want to make it unpleasant for them. Like, either quit or become decent again. That's your options, right? The same with, like, put toxic players in a toxic player queue, and then just let the pool do whatever it does. Like, I don't know, like with people that are boosted, and I tried to explain yesterday like how much the idea of smurfing hurts when you like break it down over the whole player base. You have a few people at very, very high elo smurfing. They take up a few more spots, and then it keeps moving down and moving down and moving down. And now there are plats playing against champs in plat having a bad experience. Maybe they think they cheat, so they get on a smurf and play in gold. The gold have a bad experience. He gets on a smurf and plays in copper, and he has the other guy has a bad experience. It just dilutes the whole rank system and makes it no longer worth it. If everyone has a second account, you've already messed with the rank system a lot. And in Siege, it's very common to have at least one extra, right? It's just like, where did the game go wrong where people want to have another account? Why? Like, it's missing so many things for it to make sense only to have one. And I think that's just the game's fault, without a doubt. But I just don't get why we need to have more than one? There are abandoned sanctions that people want to dodge, right? Makes sense. Maybe change the way that works. There is limitations to who you can queue with. Maybe remove that. Does anyone legit think that the 1000 MMR does any fucking thing? Like, anything. People are just jumping on other accounts to do the same stuff because accounts are so cheap.
I will say that since the MMR lock has come in, I have seen less blatant boosting in the gold and low plat ranks.
That might be. We played 3 champs and 2 diamonds yesterday in my stack against 3 plat 2s and 2 diamonds. That is 4 from each other in terms of elo. Mm-hmm. And we lost the game. We lost like 90 points. The funny thing is that the people that we were playing against are all of diamond and champ
on Smurfs
level skill.
On Smurfs, right?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So basically it becomes useless to be up in high elo because you face the same people from plat 2 to champ. Those people who we faced would have destroyed the game for quite a lot of gold people getting there.
I'll tell you what. Do you want to talk about the Sweden major now, and then we'll kind of wrap up?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Let me get it up on the screen here. I'll get the groups up.
Yeah, I got it here as well. All right, you want predictions? FaZe takes A.
Yeah.
1 takes B. BDS takes C, and SSG takes D.
All right. That was quick. I didn't even have the groups up yet. All right. So for everybody, this is a Sweden major. They start on Monday. And Group A is FaZe Clan, Oxygen, Chiefs, Esport, Rogue. Group B is Sandbox, Team 1, Team Vitality, Dark Zero. Group C is Team BDS, Invictus Gaming, Sonics, Ninjas in Pajamas. Group D is Space Station, Team Empire, Furia, Don Juan Kia. So I think obviously Group D is a group of death, right? I mean, all 4 of those teams there are very, very, very capable. And I want to say all 4 of them made it out of the last groups in the majors they were in, if I'm remembering correctly. So,
I can't remember.
Group D definitely looks like the toughest group to me. So who? Okay, let's just do it like this. What? I tell you what. You want to do a little wager too? We'll do 5
Sure.
gets it sub. 5 gets it subs. Whichever one of us gets more correct has to. Whichever one of us gets
the other one 5.
Yes, gets everyone 5 gifted subs. All right. So Group A. Who do you think is coming out of Group A?
FaZe will take it without a doubt an A.
Okay, but what? There's 2 teams coming out of each group, right?
Yeah.
The second one's a little tougher.
No idea. No idea. I'm gonna go with Chiefs.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
FaZe and Chiefs. Yeah.
I'm gonna go. So Rogue has performed historically atrocious at LAN. I'm gonna go FaZe and Oxygen to make it out of Group A.
All right. B. I'm going with Team 1 and that's tough. Dark Zero.
I'm gonna do the same. Group B. I'm saying Team 1, Dark Zero.
You're a little biased though, right?
Yeah, a little biased. A little biased.
C. I am going BDS and NIP. I think. Yeah. I'll go BDS and NIP.
I'm really curious about this group. I want to see how Sonics do. Mexico Major was really like their first major appearance as an org, and they didn't perform very well. I think that's normal for your first appearance. Hopefully they can take another step this time. I'm going to go with this one. I'm going to go BDS. I'm going to go BDS and NIP as well. Yeah, I would just have a hard time going Sonics. You know what? For the purposes of competition, I'll go BDS and Sonics. That way we have at least 2 picks different so far. Because we went the same on Group B. All right. What about Group D? Group of Death.
SSG and Empire.
Ooh. Okay.
Empire is just they're too cold and just stone focused that I have to give them benefit of that no matter what.
Don Juan Kia did really well at Mexico. Yeah. Latin America has been on fire lately. That's why Fury is tough to go against. All right, I'm going to do the same. I'm going to go Space Station Team Empire to make it out of Group D.
So it's actually only A and C we differ on.
Yes.
We just have to figure out if it's Oxygen or Chiefs that make it out of A, and if it's Neighbor Sonic that makes it out of C.
Yes, exactly. That's going to be the decider.
There we go. I think I'm pretty okay with those. I think my 4 main ones I'm pretty certain of.
So I believe I read that this is the first major where there's been 4 APAC teams present. Do you have an issue with that?
No, I don't care.
Okay.
I don't.
I guess where I'm going with that.
I've never cared where people. Like, the whole if there is enough people from one area or from another area, if we have a point system that decides who gets to go, and then yeah, that's how it is.
Well, I guess the reason here's what I'll say, and I don't disagree with you necessarily, but is it fair that Sandbox Gaming had to play who knows who or I shouldn't. No. Is it fair that in order for TSM to qualify, they had to beat Dark Zero? Mm-hmm. In order for an APAC team to qualify, who did they have to beat?
But the problem with that that way of looking at it is that what if we go out and say that for a certain amount of time, one region is stronger than another? Then the same argument goes for everyone in that entire region that didn't make it. You could say that, well, they would have made it if the top 3 in NA weren't the teams that they were. The other teams would have made it there, but they couldn't beat those top 3 teams to get enough points to go.
Let me ask you this. If all 4 APAC teams get bounced in groups, not a single one makes it through, does that change anything?
No.
Okay.
I think as a team you're responsible for what's expected for you to be able to make it to a major in terms of points. yeah, you gotta get him, man.
Yeah.
That's it.
No, I'm kind of.
I'm super like hardcore on that. I just don't. I don't feel any pity for a team not making it because it is competition.
For all the APAC fans out there, I'm kind of playing devil's advocate on this argument because if I remember correctly, at Mexico, I want to say Don Juan Kia beat TSM. Everything's running together. Don't quote me on that, but I think I'm okay with 4 APAC teams being at this major. I want to see them perform well though. I do. I want to see them start to step up a little bit more. I'm hoping at least 2 make it out of groups. That'll make me feel a little bit better about it. And I'll also say that I think that it's the best thing that can happen for Siege is for APAC to start having more of a presence in the game on the competitive scene. I think that would be good for Siege. So I'm rooting for them. Trust me, I'm not rooting against APAC here. But yeah,
I will say the streaming time is horrendous.
Yeah.
For the event. I'm terrified for viewer numbers. I really hope they're going to be decent. But
yeah.
Holy smokes, is it a bad time? Like,
whew. All right, let's take a few questions from chat. Do we want to point them in any type of direction? I mean, just keep in mind we can't really talk about the new season that much. We're both under NDA with it. We can talk about what is public, but not really anything beyond that. So I guess let's just open it up to them. Let's just ask some questions. Yeah, and yeah, I mean, obviously, if you put a leak, you're gonna get banned in my chat, and I'm not gonna put your question on the air. So, yeah, if anybody has any questions, Siege related, I would say it could be gaming related, I guess. Throw them in there.
It doesn't even have to be Siege related. Or gaming related.
With no Hassab said, Spoit tweeted that top 10 champions on PC only has 2 legit players in it. Wow.
I think that's actually probably correct. If you check the R6 tab leaderboard right now, I don't think it shows anyone that is under level 100 on the like in the top leaderboard thing. And if you like go down the list, it's like half of the player or half of the numbers from 1 to 100 are missing because they're under level 100 players. And then probably another, I don't know, 10% of the ones that are visible are cheating.
That's not good.
The top of the leaderboard is often going to have some, right? They only have to be there for a day or 2 to be noticed. So, man.
Do you have anything in your chat?
Someone asked 50 cal SMG thoughts. The only thing I'm gonna say on that one is that the Deagle is also a 50 cal.
Yeah, and the UMP is 45. So that's not.
Yeah, that's a very. At least if we use real life terms, like there's a very big difference from a 45 ACP to a 50D round.
This is a 50 GI though. A lot of people, I'm not an expert on this, but a lot of people have been telling me that a 50 GI is very similar to a 45 ACP.
Yeah, it's in between. Like it's smaller than a 50D.
Okay.
But I think a lot of gamers see 50 cal and they're like, oh, it's 50 BMG, right? Like the good old Browning or the Barrett round. Like it's not gonna be this
right
massive thing. Yeah, I mean, what's his name? Mav's DMR is a 50 Beowulf. I think the only thing everything in Siege has together where it is 50 is that it does actually it's the same with the revolvers and all of that. They do better destruction than the 9mm stuff. But I think that's about it. Yeah, I don't care what caliber it is. I don't know if it's gonna do magically more damage because it's a big round.
Yeah.
I assume fire rate is gonna be lower because it's higher caliber than the other ones. I assume the magazine is probably like the max size is probably gonna be a little lower. Actually, I don't know. The on the picture it looks like a pretty like big mag. But you'll fit less bullets in the bigger they are. So.
Alpha Black asks, how long before Zero's AR gets nerfed into the ground?
I think this should hurt his utility first.
I don't know that that's the direction I would go with nerfing him. You might look at some of the site options. I think he does have the 2.0 available. So I could see that maybe being the first place they go. They make it so he only has the 1.5 available. That could be a possibility. But yeah, I think, again, I'm okay with an operator who hasn't been in meta. And I know I guarantee there's somebody out there who's like, I've been playing Zero this whole time. I get it, okay? I'm okay with an operator who hasn't been meta to receive some type of a buff like 2 breaching charges that Zero just got, and then all of a sudden be thrust into the meta and then staying there for a couple of seasons, even if they are strong. I think that's okay. It doesn't mean you have to like knee-jerk reaction nerf immediately. Like, give them a couple seasons at least. I felt like the Yana nerf came too quick, personally. I think they should have I think they should have given Yana another season to be up there after being in the game for a year and not seeing a ton of action. She was thrust into the spotlight with the Gone 6, and I felt like it was fine. Like, let's leave her there. Like, Valk has been overpicked too strong for like 5 years. Like, literally 5 years. Get to the Valk. So like it's okay. Like,
I think the 2 hot breach things are gonna. I think that's gonna cause not issues, but it's gonna be interesting to see what happens with that. I don't know if anyone's asked yet, but there's been some controversy with Thorn and people calling it a pipe bomb, and it's not a pipe bomb, right? It's some high-tech gadget you see in the video. I get that people wanna reach a bit and find something to be upset about, but we can find that on almost every operator. There's something to point out in every operator that is a stereotype of a country or something. It's a military game. We're shooting each other. It's okay that she has explosives. I don't think anyone was sitting there going, haha, we'll just make them all angry. I'm pretty sure that was not the intention.
I've seen a little bit of rumblings about that, but I'm so ignorant on the topic. I don't understand the history there of what.
There's a lot of car bombings and stuff. IRA in 1998, there was a car bombing that killed 29 people, and it's a pretty big part of history there. But everyone has some sort of history. And it's not like they came up with the idea of things that throw shrapnel around, right? I get it, sure, but I'm. It's a little hard to take serious when every 30-year-old plus Irish person I've talked to that was alive at the time doesn't give a fuck. But there's a ton of people that have nothing to do with it or super young that are fuming on Twitter about it.
Yeah, I don't.
I just it's not important enough.
I don't feel informed enough to even talk about it, so I'm just keeping my mouth closed on it. That's been my approach.
Yeah, I'd rather poke the bear.
What? You got any more questions?
Someone was asking why I'm not on the at the major, and if it was a secret. It's not. Wife, dog, house, busy. I like the less balls in the air at the moment.
Well, aren't you playing in the creator show match or something?
Nope. I'm not going to Sweden at all.
I thought you were. Did I? Am I hallucinating?
At least if I am, I don't know.
Okay, I thought that you were.
And I can't be in Sweden because I have plans there. No, there is something. There's something coming up called like a Nordic Showdown or something. Yeah, no, that has nothing to do with.
Okay, that's a completely different thing. Yeah, I gotcha. I think
that's just some Ubisoft Nordic stuff that is planned outside of that. Yeah, they don't have anything to do with each other.
All right. Well, we'll miss you there, man. But I certainly understand.
I'm actually super excited to see new blood like that.
Yeah,
Pingu on that is gonna be pretty pug.
Pingu, and then Bikini's gonna be on the desk. It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, sure. I'm excited to see Bikini talk about Siege in a serious way.
Maybe he doesn't. Maybe that's the whole plan, is that he'll bring some type of, different perspective that we've never seen before.
Yeah, but he'll have to do it a bit different, and I'm sure he will, because you are looking at a competition of people playing it at the highest level, right? You can't just meme what they do. So, and I know he's not new to the game, he understands way more than people think. So I'm really excited to see him in a serious light.
Yeah. Red asks, again, the community loves buffs instead of nerfs. What operators are you wanting to get buffed? This goes along with one attacker or defender. I feel they need to buff rework on the other side to bring more content this season. Agree or disagree? Who needs a buff?
Wait, I don't think people like buffs.
I mean, if you look at
that's unfair.
You look at the previous season, people got pretty excited about the fuse buff. People got pretty excited about what else?
Yeah,
the IQ buff, or rework of that gadget and stuff. I think it's fair to say. I think it's fair to say that people generally react more positively to buffs than nerfs. I think that's.
Oh yeah. Okay, but that's probably just the idea of if you're asking for something to go away, you're just gonna say thank you when it does. Whereas if you ask to get something new, you're gonna be excited when you get it. I don't know, something to be buffed. I was gonna say Castle, but he just got one, and I didn't even want Castle to be buffed. I just wanted him to be slightly changed, so we saw more of him because he's such an interesting operator.
Yeah.
I think Bandit is lacking right now. I think Bandit needs
that's
some
very
attention.
true. Very true.
Because the only people I see pick Bandit right now place down the batteries and run around the map. Like they're not doing their job. I think Jaeger needs a rework. Like
Jaeger should have Walmart should have been the Jaeger rework. Facts. The game would be so much better off if they just would have done that. Anyway,
you should have two of those kind of operators. I agree.
Yeah, so you can't ban one out. That makes sense. Yeah.
He just needs to change because they keep messing with his gun, and he's at the point now where even the Jaeger mains don't want to play him.
I'd like to see him make bandits work on an area of effect similar to a mute jammer. I think that would be cool. As a first step.
That could actually be super cool, but I'm so afraid of the amount of places you'd be able to.
Imagine bandit tricking from safety. That's what's scary. Like,
yeah, and also hatches.
Well, yeah. How high would it go? Because a mute. I don't think you could make. It'd have to be sitting on something in order to reach a hatch, right? Like that would be like the balance.
Well, no, it could be. So the thing with the mute jammer is that works in a circle, right?
Right.
But if the battery just touches the corner, like if the battery has the same circle as a mute jammer and it just touches the edge of the hatch, it will electrify the whole hatch, right?
Right.
So there'd be times where you could like put a mute jammer in a completely different room, like you can with a key claw, or a battery in a completely different room than you can with a as you can with a key claw. Like you could bandit garage wall from Catwalk on Clubhouse. That's a little terrifying because right now you need to use all your mute jammers or you need to use your 2K claws. So if you could do that with Bandit, you could have 2 batteries placed down and you could bandit trick garage walls from rafters. But I mean, they could maybe adjust the amount you had and stuff like that.
Yeah,
that could be interesting. And it has some sort of it'll work the same way as mute. And Kaid and stuff. Yeah.
I'd like to see it make him. And granted, I'm biased here, but I'd like to see him make it to where when Oryx bashes through a wall, he only takes like 2 damage instead of 5. I understand, like you don't want him just going crazy, destroying everything. So make it 2 damage, but 5 just seems a bit much. If you make 2 rotates, especially when you have a Rooney over there just punching the map to oblivion. And I get it. That's a mechanical arm. I'm following all that, but
that is such a dumb thing, by the way. The Rooney punch.
Yeah,
like it's a cool thing in game, but holy smokes, is that just an extra ability that an operator didn't need? Like that should have been Oryx having that. He could make run holes and punch holes. That would make more sense. Rooney is so strong, man.
Yeah.
With that.
Yeah, and yeah. So yeah, I that's probably one. Doc is in a weird spot. I'm not sure what they do with him. Yeah,
he's also not that fun to play, to be honest. There's just not a lot to do. Like you're waiting for someone to take damage.
Yeah.
before you can do something. Actually, Rook. They changed Rook armor. Cool. But oh my god, is it boring to play.
Yeah.
You have no interaction with this gadget.
Right.
He's the one type of year one operator that just has nothing to do. And never had. You place your armor and that's it. Then you run around and shoot. And I guess it's fine to have one of those in game. But it would be nice if there was some sort of interaction.
Yeah.
Like maybe he could have infinite plates and you could run back and pick them up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, another thing with along those lines would be obviously Warden. You know, we all thought with the flash buffs, oh, it's Warden's time, and maybe that'll come. I've said for a long time, I think that Warden should have come with some explosive resistance as well. Doesn't like make it to where like Warden is the ultimate anchor, so he can play in a spot that if anybody else was playing there, like they would be, you know, you burn the ADS and then you nade them and they're dead, or you flash them and you kill them. But with Warden there, he's going to be able to take one of those nades. Maybe he takes half as much explosive resistance, something like that. Which means if you land 2 nades, you're still going to kill him.
But you have to get past the Wamai, the Jaeger, the Rogue armor, the Thunderbird. The scary thing there is that there are certain gameplay aspects where if you expect a certain outcome, it almost has to happen or it really messes with you. Let's say you land the perfect nade on top of him and he doesn't die. Okay, maybe he has 10 HP. Maybe that's where we say the limit is. Then it's not strong enough to really be worth it, because you could have done the same with the Rook armor then, right? But if he does it, like, how does it scale with having armor on top of that? Or is he just taking half damage from grenades? And I think if you land or if you land a nade below them, or if you do let's say double Sophia and Ash charge at the same time to kill someone, when you have those like planned lined up kills, it's very rough if an ability can just nullify it. That's already kind of the issue with Wamai and Jaeger, is if you didn't know, you can have this perfectly planned thing and all of a sudden your utility is just gone. Right?
Zapped out of there.
Then he becomes utility soak as an operator. And I think that's rough. If you both have to remove the shield and then you have to remove him with utility as well, because you can't go in and flash him. I'd be fine if you had another operator that could that, though. Like if there was a Warden, but for explosives.
Okay.
But having one operator deal with all throwables is, I think that's too much, and can see through smokes.
What do you have any good questions in your chat you want to throw out?
I think it's mainly people arguing about Rooney and like things based on lore. That's I think it was the Rooney punchy arm stuff, and you know how like the Dokubi echo thing was law and withstand was law. Yeah. I think we're using that as a bit of an excuse, and we're saying that they have the gadget because of law. I think they give them the stuff and then they make law around it.
Yeah.
That's my understanding of how you normally make an operator. You don't sit down and write a story and then decide, you know, that like this guy needs this and this and this because it's in the story. You normally adjust the story to the operator and not the other way around. That's at least from anything I've ever heard in terms of any operator development we've seen in Siege. I don't think it has been law being the excuse for having something there.
Zan in my chat said, I think they need to buff Ying's Candelas due to the flash rework. Thoughts?
No.
So I love playing Ying, but I find her to be so frustrating. Even still, after the flash rework, extremely frustrating. However, I think that she's an operator that needs to remain niche or low pick. You don't want a situation where Ying is picked like higher than like 20% of the rounds, in my opinion.
I find Ying busted. Like I think she's so good.
And if you, I agree. It leads to some frustration. There are still times where you throw a candela and you feel like you landed that perfectly, and they're not flashed, and you die. I get it, but
Yeah, but that's a feedback loop issue because you clearly didn't land it perfectly,
right,
right? It's funny. We had the same with flashbangs. Like we've had that conversation many times. I'm sure you've had it as well, where people saying they threw flashes in them and they just never work. But if we go into custom game and we like test it, they do, right? Like if a flashbang lands at your feet within 3 meters of all flash, you got blind no matter what.
yeah,
Unless it lands like inside of a trash can and you're prone and like, sure, there's maybe a couple times where it doesn't work, but everyone's just throwing flashes to burn utility anyway. Like you never spend time learning a lineup with a flashbang to make sure that it lands in that specific spot. But we do it with grenades because we know we can get a free kill. If we do the same amount of planning with a candela or a smoke or a flashbang, they work. If you just run around willy-nilly just tossing flashbangs left and right, then yeah, you're probably going to get shot by someone who wasn't within radius of that. But I think there's a very, very low amount of utility that just doesn't work when you did it right.
for sure, for sure.
But sure, it happens. Just
I
rare,
just think
very rare.
if you die to a Ying, that's not a great experience. And
No,
we,
no, not of
we,
course
we
not,
don't
yeah.
want a situation where you're dying to Ying every single round. That's what I'm saying.
No,
Um,
I agree.
so keep her where she's at. That's one they got to keep under wraps. Even as much as I love playing Ying, I'll say that.
I think Clash should get buffed actually.
Ooh.
I think she should slow people more or less, but destroy attacker gadgets in front of her with the electricity.
That would be interesting.
So
I mean,
if a drone comes up to a Clash and you use your ability, it'll take, let's say, a second, and the drone would get destroyed.
I really like that.
But you couldn't slow down a guy to where he basically almost can't get to you. Like
Right.
maybe it's 70% of the slow it has now, or 60% of the slow. But drones, a candela rolling towards you, you could zap that and stop it. Of course, not insta stuff like you couldn't zap a Capitao arrow out of the air. You could zap a nomad being placed in front of you, a claimer being placed in front of you, as long as you're aiming at it, and then make it so Clash doesn't have this auto lock bullshit. Make it a crosshair, like a shotgun crosshair, and anything in that area is taking the effect. So it matters if you have, like, skill becomes useful all of a sudden.
Right.
You can't just stand in that door and just auto hit everything.
Yeah.
It becomes like a funneled.
I like the gadget
big
destruction.
push
And slowing people less. I really like that. Clash is, not one of my favorite operators.
No, I find her horrible to play and horrible to play against.
Exactly.
And that's a big problem.
Yeah.
It's fun when I get someone low and they die to it, but it's so rare, and I don't feel like I did anything to deserve it.
Yeah.
And sure, every now and then you'll pull off a 180, but in all fairness, if you're playing against anyone your own skill level, it should never happen. Like anyone that is equally as good as you should never lose to that. Right?
Yeah. I think that if you are in it, like, to go along with your slowing down comment, I think that if you're in a situation where you can 1v1 a Clash and she keeps her shield up the whole time and none of her teammates come to help her, that should be a very easy win for you. I mean, Clash should be about playing with teammates and using her utility to leverage her teammates and make call outs, get free information, slow down, all that stuff I'm okay with. But what I'm not okay with is being in a 1v1 with a Clash. She shocks me, she slows me, she does damage, and then once that runs out, she does the turn around, puts the shield on the back, and then shoots me in the face with the best machine pistol in the game. That is a bit
tilting.
that is a bit hard to swallow. So,
yeah, that one's rough. The only thing I think otherwise that needs some attention is semi-auto shotguns. But a massive but with this. They don't need to be as disgustingly busted as they used to be. They just need to make sense to pick every now and then. pulse shotgun, castle shotgun, like almost all of the semi-auto shotguns, except for Cavs and Thunderbirds, which is the same an L shotgun. Those are insane. But I would like to see maybe shotguns have an option for different chokes, so you could choose the spread on them, or some sort of attachment where I on pulse could decide if I want very wide spread or very narrow spread. And it would then hurt me if I wanted to do rotates. I just have to do many, many more. Maybe it has the spread of like the bailiff, right? And there's like almost no spread on it, but it'll work at a bit longer ranges. And I don't think it would hurt that much. Like on Pulse and Castle, it's not like they have insane guns that are slapping you left and right.
Right.
The UMP is. I think everyone kind of agrees that UMP isn't the best gun in the game.
Yeah.
Right. But Pulse used to be a menace with that shotgun, and we barely see Pulse anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I just like to see some of that come back a little bit. It was interesting to see.
All right, you want to wrap it up?
Yeah,
you good?
I think.
Unless there's something in your chat that you want to throw
out. Some of them. no, I don't think there's anything else.
All right, man. All right, well, thanks everybody for hanging out. If you're watching this on YouTube, we appreciate you. We're looking for feedback, so let us know if you enjoyed this version of it, if you felt like it was any different. That's really the goal, is to keep improving this. And I enjoyed this. I thought this was pretty cool. I wanna try it again. How about you?
Bring ideas for guests.
Yeah, that'd be good too. All right, so with that said, we are gonna wrap it up. Don't forget, guys, the reveal as well as the major starts on Monday. And if everything goes well, then we should be seeing you sometime next week. So we'll see you on the next one.